There are a lot of painting handles on the market. Over the course of my 2 decades in the hobby, I've used many of them, from the humble wooden dowel with tape to this absolutely crazy thing by Cobalt Keep. I've tested a bunch. A lot of them do a lot right, but not a single one of them is perfect. I want a painting handle that works for all miniature solutions, is cost effective, and feels right in the hand. I want to take what I like from each painting handle and combine them together into a prototype that we'll develop over the course of this video, printed on the A1 combo, provided by this video's sponsor, Bamboo. Let's talk about what's available right now. The Citadel handle is inexpensive, has a mechanical attachment for the model, so no tape or poster tack or magnets are required, but the teeth that grip the base make it annoying to paint the base rim, and it can't hold anything that doesn't have a base, like a display model. Also, the grip reminds me a little bit of, let's just say it's awkward to hold. The Redgrass Games handle has a great ergonomic grip and a nice rotating top that can be swapped out if you want to swap models on and off your handle, a feature that I admittedly never use. To attach the model, however, it requires some kind of adhesive. This may not be a deal breaker for you, but in a perfect world, I would never need anything outside of the handle itself to have it function. As someone who loses things all the time or forgets to replace a roll of double-sided tape when I'm out, it can be annoying to deal with. The A-Case magnetic handle is nice because it has a lot of different heads you can toss on and off and a big surface that supports large bases. The magnetic connection that keeps the various heads on isn't the strongest, and sometimes it comes off while painting, especially with the bigger heads. A magnet is also obviously required to have the setup fully function. Again, not a big deal, but it's something I have to go digging for before I can just sit down and paint. There's also this interesting handle that I found on Maker World. I printed on my A1 combo and has a similar grippy teeth to the Citadel handle, but there are 3 points of contact instead of 2. I printed this handle out in 1 hour and 45 minutes. There are a ton of other handle options available for printing on MakerWorld, available on the Bamboo Hub app. Just search painting handle and select any one of the free options available and hit prepare to print to get started. You can fire off a print right from your phone. This is my very first FDM printer, and I was absolutely blown away by how straightforward it was to get everything set up and how easy it is to get a print started. Compared to my experience with resin 3D printing, this was a walk in the park, and no prior education was required. You'll be seeing more of the A1 throughout this video, but if you want to check out the printer and also the AMS Lite, you can find it linked in the description below. There are also many handle options that feature some kind of finger rest stability, like this one from Game Envy, but they don't get it fully right. It's convenient that the stability bar can rotate around the model, but it doesn't seem to support the weight of my painting hand, which requires me to have to hold it in place with my other fingers. Additionally, it's not as modular as I'd like. I'd like it to be able to move around with some more freedom, extend its length, etc. All right, now that we know what I like and what I don't like from the various brands, what are the goals for my handle? First and foremost, this handle should work for as many miniature scenarios as possible, meaning multiple base sizes and types, unbased display models, and more. I'd like for this handle to not require magnets or poster tack, and also not grip to the outside of the model's base, so the rim is fully paintable, and also so there's not big chunky hardware getting in the way of my ergonomic grip. If possible, I want there to be a paintbrush hand rest that is modular so I can move it around depending on where I'm painting to give me better stability. I also want this to be cheaper, so some kind of 3D printable option seems like a good path forward initially. Speaking of cheap, the printer we're using in today's video, the A1 combo, comes in at an entry-level price and is the only printer at that price to deliver multicolor printing thanks to the AMS Lite. All right, let's get designing. First thing we need to do is figure out a new way to have a base attached to a model. And the first thought that I had was some kind of suction. So I bought some things here to test out. This thing already kind of seems like it's on a handle. Maybe it's for picking something up. If I just suction the bottom of this base here. Well, that's not promising. How about in a perfect world where it's totally flat? Okay, we're getting somewhere. Does it come off super easily? Kind of. What if I have more suction? Okay. All right, well, in a perfect world where you have a ton of suction, a perfectly flat base, this may be some kind of solution. The problem, however, is that in reality, the underside of bases are just kind of all over the places with slots, little holes, all kinds of pegs and stuff like that. So suction is probably not gonna work, but we have another option. Other option I have is this thing called a vacuum handling tool. Again, probably used to pick up very, very small things. And these little suctions come in very small sizes. So it could fit somewhere where there isn't any writing on the underside of the base. So we're just gonna blow out, apply it to our base, let go, and then we have some suction. Comes off kind of easily though, probably very easily. So it's not gonna stick super nice. Let's try a slightly bigger one. Okay, we're gonna shelve suction for now. I have one other easy idea I wanna try. A lot of people use these little pin vices as a way to hold on to miniatures, especially smaller things like heads. But what if you used it for a normal model? I don't want to hand crank every single time I want to paint a model. That seems like too much. But what if we did a battery powered one? Okay, here I'm attached just to a base. It feels pretty secure. Not too bad. I wonder if it'd feel better if the drill bit was larger. Now, some of you may be thinking, this is not a practical solution. In what world would you ever resort to this over just going and finding some poster tack or a magnet? And that's a very fair question. Seems like the bigger the drill bit, the more prone it is to getting kind of a sloppy hole. Sloppy hole. That was my nickname in high school. Sometimes when you want to make something new, it's worth exploring all available options, even if you think in your head they're not going to work. I didn't think the suction thing was going to work, but I wanted to try it anyways, just to see if it would surprise me. Similar to the suction cups, it's not practical to have people go out and buy a battery-operated pin vise just so they can have a good grip on their miniatures. But in reality, what we're testing is not necessarily, is this a good end solution, just is something like this a good solution? If by the end of this video, we find out this is actually a really solid solution, I wouldn't recommend you go out and buy this exact thing. No, the next step would be to find some kind of small rotary engine that's battery powered with a little lithium ion thing to make a tiny little package, make it easily rechargeable, make it easy to use. So no button, but the drill just starts whenever you push it down on something. That part comes later. Right now, we're just trying to find the right technology to solve the problems that I laid out in the beginning of the video. The pin vise idea actually has some potential, especially if the base you're using has a little bit more meat to it. On the thinner bases, it's okay, but not totally perfect. I think it's probably not worth pursuing this idea as an actual solution for now because of all the extra engineering that would have to go on to make it actually useful for someone like you and me. So let's try one third and more difficult option. This handle that I printed on my A1 combo back there has an interesting mechanism on the top. It has a spiral on the top that operates as a track for these jaws. So when you spin it, they can tighten, and when you spin it another way, they can loosen. And I think this could potentially work as an idea to hold onto miniatures if we just think of it in the reversed way. Let's say we have a small disc that's about 5 millimeters in diameter, and I were to spin something very similar to this handle, and that little thing would just get bigger and elongate. Let's say that disc had like an interesting angle on it and maybe a little bit of a sharper edges, and maybe it could kind of catch any kind of little feature on the bottom of a base, whether it's the edge of a base rim or a slot or some weird peg thing or whatever it may be. If it could bite into that plastic just a tiny amount, maybe have, 4 jaws or 3 jaws or just 2, we'll see what works best. Maybe that'd be enough to grip onto a model, not need any kind of magnets, poster tack, and not obscure the base rim at all. Okay, I know I just described like a disc that would open up underneath the base, but really anything that can bite into the plastic would be sufficient, like little prongs from a paper clip, for instance. I'm gonna take the handle that I just printed out, modify it a little bit with some paper clip wire that I kind of bend in a specific way to see if this idea has any merit. Okay, it's done. The little prongs will go outward with the spinning motion. Now let's see if it can hold on to a miniature. Could you imagine if this just worked? Okay, I mean, I didn't glue anything down, so it's starting to come out a little bit, but I don't know, y'all. I thought this video was gonna be so difficult to do, but maybe, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, now with the prongs glued down, let's see if it works a little bit better. We may have a winner. Okay, that worked on a cobalt keep base that has a very convenient little circle there for me to grip onto. Let's see if it works on the underside of like a weirder base with like a slot and a curve. Okay, I mean, it doesn't look pretty, but this is on there and I could keep cranking down on it and make it even more stuck into that plastic. How about a normal base with nothing underneath it? Okay, it's not big enough. We're gonna need a bigger spiral, which is gonna allow us to open these jaws even more, maybe even some prongs that are a little bit longer. This is all the R&D process that I have to figure out, but this is very, very promising. Let's make it more official. Let me take a brief break in the design process to let you know that there is a holiday sale going on right now at Miniac.co, a big buy one, get one half off. You can buy one display model and get the other one half off. This includes the cheerleader. You can buy one 32mm model and get the other half off. You can buy a cutting mat and get a brush coffin half off. So the tools are buy one, get one half off. And lastly, the t-shirts are also buy one, get one half off. Now until December 15th. You can find my store linked below. Again, that is Miniac.co. Additionally, all the masterclass courses are now 20 bucks off when you buy them with a display model. This includes the buy one, get one half off. So if you buy 2 models and you buy both courses with those models, you'll get both courses $20 off and the second mini half off. All right, back to designing the ultimate miniature painting handle. For this prototype, I just want to keep things simple. So I'm going to modify this handle that already has the function that I want. To do that, I'm going to create these little jaw add-on things that have a groove in them that'll allow me to glue in a track pin, which is basically a tiny nail with the end sticking out just barely. I can then glue these little add-on pieces to the handle itself and give it a shot. I also made some of those disc-shaped jaw things that I drew earlier. And what's not shown here is me iterating on the design several times, changing the dimensions, reprinting it, and stuff like that, which is made very easy with the bamboo slicer. Just like with the app, you can remotely start prints from your computer. And that saves the print to the machine, so you can even restart that print from the machine after it's been sent. Each time I print something on the bamboo, it goes through a vibration calibration to compensate for the movements of the printer, auto bed leveling, and tests the flow of the filament to ensure the best printing results. As far as setting and forgetting, this printer exceeds any resin 3D printer experience I've ever had. Okay, pretty similar to the last design that we saw, but now a little bit more refined. Also, the nails aren't pointing upward, they're just pointing horizontally. So let's see if that makes a difference. Okay, that is working perfectly, honestly. It's nicer now too that the base is nice and flat on that surface as opposed to being kind of all wonky because of my jank paperclip bending. But this is working flawlessly. One thing that made designing these little things a lot easier is that you can download a particular file format right from MakerWorld and import it into Fusion 360. And you can hide various things. I can measure things digitally, so I'm not relying on physical measurements entirely. Super convenient for taking a design and remixing it, which is the term that's used on MakerWorld. At this point in the design process, I'm pretty convinced that this idea or something like it is going to work. And so I'm gonna move on to trying to accomplish my other features, but a way that we could very easily improve something like this is just by increasing the amount of surface area that this thing has to grip to the bottom of the base. An idea for how to do that will be to take a wheel that you often find in a tool like this. This is called a pounce wheel. Take a pie slice of that wheel and make that the jaw instead of a single pin. If you can imagine a 120-degree cut of this, you'd have maybe 3 or 4 different little pins that would then interact with all the different shapes on the bottom side of the base. Okay, now that I'm somewhat confident in my below base attachment method, We have to move on to some of the other things I was trying to solve, like being able to address display models and also bases that are filled in on the bottom, like cast bases or 3D printed bases. But also I want a finger rest that can be on the front of the model and also has some modularity. And those additions are printing right now behind me. First, I'm gonna glue down some pie-shaped slices of cork in between the little grippy bits that go in and out. Next, I'm gonna attach a ring on the outside of the handle that has a groove in it that will allow me to run and eventually twist some hanging wire in that groove. Then with a few adapter pieces and 2 more hanging wire, I can create a little armature that not only is repositionable, but also can be increased in length. Now this design is definitely not perfect. The moment you twist the armature, it doesn't want to go back through the little extender that I have created. Not only does it do that, but the super glue keeps failing and the caps keep popping off. And honestly, I think the hanging wire is a little bit too difficult to bend for what I'm trying to do here. It can definitely support the weight of my finger, and it could probably stand to be a little bit weaker and a little bit easier to use. Now, the cork is there to deal with the issue of bases that have solid bottoms and also display models. I don't know about you, but whenever I paint a display model, it is my expectation I'm gonna have to pin it into a handle to paint it. I've always had to do that, and so this is not anything short of what I normally have to do, pinning it into the cork. For solid bases, I'm just taking the L, honestly. The typical GW design where it grips to the outside is definitely going to be better than my little under grippy thing for that particular situation. And with this prototype, we've accomplished basically everything that I wanted to accomplish with a handle, but there is so much left to do. I need a better rest for my paintbrush hand. I need the cork to be level with everything else, so the top of this thing is just nice and flat. And if you wanted to just slap some double-sided tape on top of it and stick a mini to it, you could without having to use any of the mechanisms. I need the ergonomics to be improved a little bit. I don't like this wider top in comparison to this lesser diameter bottom right here. This is a proof of concept. And as a proof of concept, it shows me that some of the ideas I had are not as far-fetched as I thought they would be. And so now I need to iterate. I need to make it better and better. And if you're interested in that kind of video, let me know down in the comment section below. I would love to keep working on this thing and make it better and better. Thanks so much to the sponsor of this video, Bamboo, for supplying their A1 combo for this video. I've always wanted to get into FDM printing for specifically reasons like this, creating tools and being able to change a design and then print something out in under 20 minutes, try it out, and just keep iterating like that. It is such a better way to design tools than, say, using a resin 3D printer. And honestly, it was shockingly so simple. I never messed with support settings. I never messed with infill settings. I just made an STL, put it in a slicer, I hit orient, I hit slice, and then I printed. It's very convenient when a tool gets out of my way and just lets me do the thing that it's designed to do. And with very little education. You can also support me on Patreon, which is also linked below, which gets you access to my Discord server. It also gets you access to behind the scenes content from me about what I have going on during the week. It also gets you some early release videos every now and then. Subscribe and die! And most importantly, don't forget to paint more minis!